Hey there. So, are you thinking about making a move out here to Lehi, Utah, which is located just about 25 minutes south of Salt Lake City? I have actually had so many people reaching out to me recently saying, "Hey, Mariah, I got a job close to Lehi, or I got a job in Lehi. We're thinking about living in Lehi. What can you tell me about that place?" And really, there are some great things about Lehi. There are also some things that deter people from living in Lehi. So today I'm going to just share with you 10 reasons why some people, love living there, but also why some people it may not be the right fit for you living right in Lehi. And we're going to hop into it right now. Mariah Koehle here. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your very first time here. I'm a licensed and active real estate agent here in Utah, and this channel is everything you need to know about eating, working, playing, sleeping, and living in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. If that's of interest to you, consider subscribing down below and make sure you tap that bell for notifications so you are notified every week I drop a new video. I hear from people like you all the time who are looking to make a move, looking to relocate, or looking to buy or sell a home here in Utah, and I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move in a week, in a month, or even a year from now, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and it would be our absolute pleasure to connect with you. Lehi, Utah. Yes, what can I tell you about Lehi, Utah? Well, it's funny because I remember when my husband and I we actually moved to Provo, Utah, where my husband was finishing up grad school. And I remember driving through Lehi so many times and literally just seeing farmland. Lehi, Utah was not what it is today. And so today, and some people that actually, have been in Lehi, born and raised in Lehi, have lived there for years and years, they're like, this is not the place that we originally knew. Some people love it. Some people don't particularly care to live in Lehi. So today I'm going to be just sharing with you 10 reasons why maybe Lehi is not the right fit for you. It could be the right fit for you, but just kind of to give you some of this, base of why some people love it, why it might not be the right fit for some. So number one is simply the traffic. Because of the tech industry and how many jobs have come to Lehi, Utah. Lehi is known as the Silicon Slopes. Yes, the Silicon Slopes, named after the Silicon Valley in Northern California. So the Silicon Slopes, really, when you drive through, you will see lots of big buildings, tech industry, and just a lot of big names have come to Lehi. Because of that, they've had to expand the roads a lot more, and there is a lot more traffic. So even coming down on the 92, which is, the 92 highway, which goes all the way into American Fork Canyon, and then it goes right to I-15, that road can get backed up and actually have what's called the commuter lane on the 92, simply because, they're trying to get that traffic flowing. But sometimes 92 gets a little bit backed up and traffic kind of is a little bit congested. Number two is the cost of living. Yes, the cost of living in Lehi, Utah is actually going to be a lot higher than in some of the other areas, simply because you've got so many jobs there. You've got the accessibility to the freeway. You've got accessibility to a lot of different things. So the cost of living has gone up considerably, really considerably. And with that being said, the cost going up leads me into number three. There is a ton of new construction. For some people, they're like, this is awesome because I want new construction. I want to live in a new home. For other people who are moving there, especially like in the Traverse Mountain area, there's a lot of new construction right up, overlooking all of Lehi. But if you're moving into a new neighborhood, sometimes people are like, oh man, you've got the dump trucks, you've got nails sometimes that are on the street and pop tires and just all that goes along with new construction, and the noise, right? The noise that goes along with new construction too. If you are moving into a neighborhood, most of the community is primarily done, you may not have to deal with that new construction as much. So sometimes people are like, you know what? that doesn't matter to me. I'd actually rather have a new home. I don't mind the, the noise and the construction and all that. But for some people, they're like, there's just too much new construction. I don't want to have to deal with all of that. Going right along with new construction, and this actually kind of taps into one of the first ones that I mentioned. This one goes into the job market because, because Lehi is, this big tech industry, lots of jobs. The job market is actually highly, highly competitive. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm moving in for a job. And then, with the economy and the tech industry, and there have been layoffs and all of that, many times too, with this tech industry, it's tricky to get a job. Yes, there are still lots of jobs, but it can also be a highly competitive job market simply because many people do want to live there. Many people want to live close to work. And so that job market, depending on the industry that you're in, it may or may not be, hard to get a job there. Number 5 is the air quality. Now, typically the air quality in Lehi is very moderate. It is usually pretty good, but sometimes you will get that inversion that carries over from that Salt Lake City, Utah area. And that inversion really is that smoggy, thick air that just sits in that kind of bowl area. But what happens is sometimes it, because Lehi is right at the point of the mountain, what they call it, the point of the mountain, sometimes that air quality is not as good depending on where you're at in Lehi. There are, there's the west side of Lehi and then there's the east side, and it's really divided by the I-15 freeway. But sometimes that air quality, depending on where you're at in Lehi, is not awesome, simply because of the inversion that rolls in. Typically, though, it will blow out. It usually happens in the wintertime when a storm comes in and then it blows out. So the air quality is another thing to be aware of. Number 6 are, because there are a lot of people that are moving to Lehi, some of the schools, yes, some of the schools are crowded. Some of the schools have lots and lots of kids in those classrooms, and some of the classrooms are 30 plus kids, which for Utah, it depends on where you're at. I know some of, for my kids, they're at a smaller charter school, so a lot of their class sizes are right around 20. Some of the private schools try to keep their class sizes down, but some, and I'm not saying all, but some of the class sizes are definitely larger in Lehi, simply because there's a lot of kids and they're, overcrowding from some of those schools. I know I have a friend that's a teacher that's in Lehi, and she's like, oh my gosh, this year, my class, I have 35 kids, and it just is a lot of kids. So sometimes that overcrowding with schools, but also know that one thing that they have here in Utah that is a huge pro for many is it is open enrollment. So if there is room at another school, you can apply for your child to go to another school, and they can go to another school, and maybe it's less crowded, maybe it's not, or maybe it's a school that has a particular program that you're interested in. So just know that there is that option for the open enrollment. Number 7 is the harsh winters and the really hot summers. Yes, harsh winters and hot summers is sometimes a deal breaker for some. When I say harsh winters, it actually really does depend on where you live in Lehi. The higher up elevation that you are, the more snow you are going to have. So in some of the areas in Lehi, there, the elevation is not as high as some of the others. You're going to see a lot less snow. The higher up you go, the higher the elevation, the more snow you're going to see. So we have friends that live, kind of up at the top of Traverse Mountain, and they literally, like, this was the year that I'm shooting this is 2023, and 2023 was a harsh winter here in Utah. They literally were like, we were shoveling our way out of our driveway. Like, it was, they were snowed in for 2 days simply because the snow was so high, and like people really couldn't get out of their homes. Of course, their kids thought that was so fun because they didn't have to go to school for 2 days. But, really where they were, and, the amount of snow that they got, it's not typical. It doesn't normally happen, but this winter it did. A lot of the others areas in Lehi that are not as high up, no problems. Everybody went to school. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. So depending on your location really will determine too those winters of, gosh, there's a lot more snow, there's less snow. And moving right along, talking about the summers here in Utah tend to be, dry, hot. Yes, dry, hot, but sometimes it's going to be hot where the kids don't even want to run around outside because it's just, it's 90 plus degrees or 100 degrees. The good thing is though, because it is a dry heat, there's not that much humidity in the air. So a lot of times people are like, yeah, it's really hot, or yeah, it's really cold. But because you don't have that humidity, it doesn't feel as hot or it doesn't feel as cold. Which leads me right into number 8 is the wind. Yes, the wind in Lehi is something to be reckoned with sometimes. Again, depending on where you are at in Lehi, it will sometimes be a lot windier, sometimes not as windy. But one thing you will see is a lot of families have trampolines, and those trampolines are in the ground. I remember when we first moved here, I was like, I wonder why here in Utah, there are so many in-ground trampolines, because in Southern California, if you had a trampoline, it certainly wasn't in ground, and it was just an out of ground trampoline where the kids, jump up and down. Well, here, and especially in Lehi is windy, 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 windy. And in fact, one of the things that you will notice if you are into hang gliding, yes, hang gliding, at the point of the mountain in Lehi, there is an area where people hang glide all the time. It's like known for it because it's a really windy area, and those hang gliders are just able to, really have a really nice ride down. But know that Lehi is a windy place. For some, they're like, the wind doesn't bother me. For other people, they're like, oh, you know what? I'd rather find an area that's less windy. Moving right along to the next one, Lehi is a fairly conservative area. Again, for some, they're like, oh, great. That falls right in step with my beliefs. For other people, they're like, oh, you know what? I'd rather be in maybe an area that's not so conservative, but just kind of know that going along with it too. And number 10, if you are looking for, public transportation, Lehi is not known for having a lot of options for public transportation. Yes, there are some, but it's definitely not as developed, and there's not as many, public transportation opportunities in Lehi as there would be down in Salt Lake City. If you're in Salt Lake, there's the tracks, there's all these different, the train systems and the bus systems are super active all throughout that area. In Lehi, yes, there's certain areas where trains will come through, but in a lot of them, it's, you just don't see it as much. So hopefully this gives you an idea of 10 things that you should know about if you are thinking about moving to Lehi. Again, some of the things that we talked about, the high cost of living, the windy area, the harsher winters and the hotter summers. You're looking for, different areas. The snow can be a lot more. Like I said, it can be windy. The job market is really competitive there too. But again, all these different things are just, information. If you are thinking about moving to Lehi, just kind of know these things in the back of your head where you're like, oh yeah, yep, Mariah told me it was going to be a pretty windy place. Or, oh yeah, I knew going into it, the job market right here was going to be a little bit more competitive. Oh, I knew that the price of houses were going to be maybe a little bit more expensive in certain area. There's a lot of new home construction that's going on. So just know these things. And again, if you are thinking about making a move, relocating, or really buying or selling a home here in Utah, my team and I help people like you all the time, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move in a week, in a month, or even a year from now, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and it would be our absolute pleasure to connect with you. Take care and have a great one. Bye.